actual verses today of the chapter. I don't know if it's in honor of Shmuel or someone else. There's still a lot to be said here. We're continuing with this masterwork of a new artisan brought into the Beit HaMikdash. We call that a Yavu Ishi. It's like a personal import from Lebanon, Chirom. And Chirom, like the same name of the non-Jewish king there in Lebanon, but he, as we see, from the tribe of Naphtali. And what's special, you would think the people of Lebanon, they're carpenters or they're stone people, but they happen to be also metal experts. In this case, he's a coppersmith. And we see the tremendous amount of kelim, instruments, built in the Beit HaMikdash out of copper. And the Tanakh doesn't even give us, doesn't tell us the amounts of copper being used. We know that in the Beit HaMikdash, in the Mishkan that was built, in the book of Shemot, we even have a summary of the incoming metals and the outcoming metals, everything that was donated, everything that was used. Right? We have a parsha called Pikudei, the numbers. We're told, and there's a lot of silver. Here, interesting, I'm noticing now, no silver mentioned here. But instead there's copper, as if silver is not important. Let's continue reading, understanding what's happening here. Pasuk Mem. We continue learning about the Klei Nechoshet. Vayas Chirom et ha-kiyorot. You might have thought that a kiyor is a wash basin, but we already learned about the Yam Shel Shlomo, which is a mikveh, like 150 mikvot we saw. And we learned about the 10 mechonot, which were the kiyorim on wheels. And we're noticing the production of 10 times the amount of instruments or kelim used in the Mishkan. One of the reasons we provided is the area is 10 times the area of the Mishkan. And we don't know if Shlomo is doing this by himself or he's instructed by God through prophecy, but we're not talking about his house. We did talk about his house. Interesting that inside this perek, the prophet Yirmiyahu writes about the building of his house, which was delayed, but now goes back to be writing about the what? The kelim now. We learned about the building and the stones and the gold covering and the wooden interior decorating inside. Now we're continuing about other kelim inside Pasuk Mem. Let's read it. Vayas Chirom et ha-kiyorot v'et ha-ya'im v'et ha-mizrakot vayechal Chirom lasot et kol ha-melacha asher asa lamelech Shlomo Beit Adonai. Okay? So, gentlemen, there are instruments used for the altar. One of the instruments used for the altar is a seer. It's like a pot. What do we use the pot for? We take a shovel. We have a ya'eh, which is like a pan, and we take the accumulation of the deshen, of the accumulated ashes from the mizbeach, and we put it into this kiyor, which we said is like a seer, and that's how we would do every morning. Would be the first maaseh done even prior to dawn. Trumat HaDeshen, it's called in Hebrew, Truma, from the word Leharim et HaDeshen. And the Deshen, the accumulated ashes, would be taken. It would be like honored that there's room now on the altar for serving God. So the kiyorot are made out of copper. We have the ya'im here. Okay, and the ya'im is like a rake. It's not just a pan. It's like ligrof et HaDeshen. It's like a rake to take the Deshen away. And we have, of course, the mizrakot, which is a vessel for filling up with the liquid of the blood and used for zrikat adam. As we all know, zrikat adam, the dam represents the nefesh, and that's the main part of the korban. Because if a korban were to be slaughtered, yet a dam would not be put on the altar, then there really would not be a fulfillment of the korban. So here we're told at the end of the pasuk, Vayichal Chiram It's very similar to a Lashon in the book of Shemot, where we saw there that Bezalel finished the work of the Mishkan. The Tanakh is consistent. The word Vayichal, which you know on Shabbat night, Vayichulu Hashamayim ve'aretz. Heaven and earth were completed. We'll learn more in another shiur that this is the completion of creation. The building of the Beit HaMikdash, since it is the lave, the heart, the objective of the world, Vayichal is, and it was completed. Not a Heichal. A Heichal there is a place where people are assembled. That is a Heichal. Here, Vayichal from the word Lichlot, to finish, to complete. So it's a very dramatic ending. Vayichal Chiram, he completed making all the avodot made out of copper. And why are we told? There's affection and love, the commentators explain. That's why it stated that it was completed to do all the work that Melech Shlomo ordered to do. Melech Shlomo is the supervisor. He has the blueprints, the plans. We'll talk about that in another shiur. From whom did he get the blueprints and plans? And then we'll talk about the connection between David, his father, and Shlomo. Let's continue. Amudim Shnayim, the two pillars, which we learned beforehand about. It's not clear to me why is it being repeated here. The two pillars, V'gulota kotorot sharosh amudim shnayim. We saw the capitals on top for decoration. Hasvachot shnayim, there are chains like going around the pillars. Lechasot et shtei gulota kotorot sharosh amudim. I don't understand all these details, but let's keep on going. B'vakasha Membet in 42. Vetarimunim, decorations in the form of rimunim. Remember, we saw this. We saw what looks like a rimon on top of the capitals of these amudim that we learned were 9 meters high. Something fantastic. Vetarimunim arba meot lishtei hasvachot. So what is the Tanakh mentioning here? Is it the weight? Apparently the weight of this decoration of the rimon and the pomegranates on top of these amudim. But it's interesting, even if we don't understand so many details, and the Tanakh mentions these, this is not a gallery, nor a museum. And all these details are written out of holiness of prophecy. And apparently, if they're written and shared to us, these fine details of the amudim, of the pillars, and the decorations, and the form of the pomegranates, and the chains, and everything's done out of Kodesh. Construction out of Kodesh. Which will lead us to think that when Shlomo was building his home, and we talked about this relevance, the way he built his home in the format of the building of the Beit HaMikdash, you might think the building of his home is something secular, something mundane. We're learning that everything combined in this chapter, we'll tap onto that also a little later, is that of holiness. And Am Yisrael is on such a holy level, socially, economically, spiritually, internationally. Pasuk Mem Gimel. In the summary here of the kelim that was done, made out of copper, Veta Mechonot Eser. Here you go. 10. These stands are holding a wash basin, a circular wash basin with decorations on it, and there the Kohen can take water out of it and do what's called Kiddush Yadayim V'Raglayim. Okay? In order for a Kohen to begin doing his work in the morning, as he's summoned to do in the book of Shemot when we're building the Mishkan, one hand, his right hand on his right foot, his left hand on his left foot, water goes on both, and that's called sanctifying his hands and feet to do work and service. So there were 10 of these, and they were nayadim. They were, you could transport, they had wheels, round wheels. Okay? HaMechonot Eser, Betakirot Asar al-Mechonot. Here, these kior are wash basins, like we mentioned. So the Tanakh here is summarizing all the matters made in one shot, made out of what? Out of copper. V'tayam ha'echad. The Yam Shel Shlomo, as we mentioned in our study yesterday, 2 days ago, is something gigantic in size. What is it, 150 mikvot, did we say? Huh? We had about 60. How many liters did we say we had in the Yam Shel Shlomo? I thought I had it written down. Okay, there was about 150 mikvot.
2,000 pots.
It's about 150 sizes of a mikveh. And 150 mikvot, tens of thousands of liters, something gigantic. All this too was made out of copper. Vetabakar shnei masar. We learned that this Yam Shel Shlomo, they had copper, bakar, strength of Israel, purity, 12, the 3 in each direction. This is a drawing of what some experts think what the Yam Shel Shlomo looked like. Okay?
This was a mikvah?
And this was a mikveh. They would jump in there, the Kohanim. They knew how to swim. If that's your
They
worry.
need a trampoline.
Okay. Pasuk Memhei, Vetasirot, Vetaya'im, Vetamizrakot. So the Tanakh again is a bit repetitive here. I really didn't get down to understanding what's the importance of mentioning all the kelim. Maybe to give us an impression, this guy Hiram built so many kelim made out of copper, and they're all brought here, the sirot, which are the pots, the ya'im, to rake the ashes, mizrakot, for sprinkling the dam. Vet kol ha'kelim ha'ele ha'ehel. Ha'ehel is written, but ha'ele is really the tikkun of, not the tikkun, it's read one way, but written another way. Asher asach Hiram lamelech Shlomo beit Adonai nechoshet memorat. What is nechoshet memorat? Fine, the finest copper that you can get. Interesting, where did they get the copper from? You could say the gold that they had to, maybe if they bought it from merchants, maybe it was the gold that we brought out of Mitzrayim, that we talked about beforehand. The Torah will now tell us where we get the nechoshet here in the next pasuk. But the nechoshet memorat, it was shining. Why did the Tanakh say before the kol kelim ha'ohel? Because some of the kelim that we have here were in the ohel moed, the tent of meeting, the Mishkan, during the time of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's what the commentators say, why the word ohel is stated here. And nechoshet memorat is, it's shiny. It's so shiny that you can even see yourself in the nechoshet. The question or the riddle, where is it taken from? So now we're going to find out some of the wealth of the land of Israel. Pasuk Mem Vav, verse 46. Bechikar hayarden yitzakam hamelech b'ma'avei ha'adama bein Sukkot uvein tzaratam. Okay, let's see the geographic region. Kikar Yarden. Kikar is a flat area of the Jordan. Now we know the land of Israel is the following. We have Eastern Eretz Yisrael. We have Western Eretz Yisrael. What separates is the Jordan River. So too the entire area here is flat. That's a Kikar. So we can call this the Jordan Valley. Today we call it Bikata Yarden or Arvota Yarden. Okay? The Jordan goes into the Dead Sea, as we know before. So here, in the Jordan Valley, Kikar Yarden, 2 places are mentioned here. One place called Sukkot, and another called Tzaratan. Do we know exactly? I don't know. Do we have a hint to where it is? Yes. Okay. Sukkot, we know today where there's a spring of Sukkot, not far from Shedmot Mechola, before the Malay Gilboa region. That's Sukkot. So some thought it's Sukkot, where we were on the other side of the Jordan River, Am Yisrael coming back, Yaakov Avinu coming back from Chutz La'aretz. So Sukkot is somewhere maybe here. And Tzaratan, some say it's the Sartaba mountain. What is the Sartaba mountain? In the Mishnah, Masechet Rosh Hashanah, the Mishnah teaches us the smoke signal system. tonight, if you and I were outside and we saw the appearance of the new moon, and the next morning we get on a train or a bus and we go up to the Temple Mount and we offer testimony, and we're interrogated individually by the Sanhedrin. Where did you see it? What type? Where was it in the sky? What did the crescent look like? And so on and so forth. In the event that our testimonies were compatible one to another, then the court would declare Mikudash. Mikudash. What does it mean? The month is sanctified. And if we have a holiday, we count now from one. How do the Jews far away know? Before telecommunications. The night after it's sanctified, we would light a fire here on the Temple Mount, and a messenger on Mount Olives would see it, and he would light one. And then from Mount Olives, there is a mountain that has an amazing, how do we call it, a very sharp top in the Jordan Valley. That's called the Sartaba with a Samech. When we travel in the Jordan Valley, we can see the mountain. It's a favorite place for people hiking, but it's a very steep climb up. And from that Sartaba, I think we go somewhere to the Giladi Mountains, to the Golan, to Iraq. And that's how, within an hour or so, I assume, people know about that last night was Rosh Chodesh, and tonight is the second day. Nonetheless, what resources are found here? In this area, in the Jordan Valley, Hiram was pouring copper in this area, not Shlomo Melech, but the artisan, he's pouring copper. In other words, it could be that in other words, they built a factory somewhere there in the Jordan Valley for the formation of the Kiyor, the Sirim, and all the other Kelim. And it's somewhere there in the Jordan Valley between Sukkot, and some say that it is the Sartaba. But it doesn't say exactly that this is the source of the copper. Where could it be? I don't know. It could be that it was received from merchants bringing elsewhere. We don't know exactly. Nonetheless, we're coming to a finale here towards the end of the chapter. Pasuk Mem Zayin, Vayanach Shlomo et kol hakelim, meirov meod meod. Wow. Shlomo takes the kelim, and what does he do with it? He puts it in the treasury of the Beit HaMikdash. However, there's such great number, the amount of copper being used, that the term me'od me'od is used, lo nechkar mishkal nechoshet, whatsoever, because it wasn't investigated, it wasn't accounted for, whereas there's just so much copper kelim that even Shlomo Melech is not counting it, which is a novelty, because in the Mishkan, in the Mishkan in the desert, we saw an accounting for the silver and the gold. Until now, the copper. What about kelim made out of gold? Pasuk Memchet. Vayash Shlomo et kol hakelim asher beit Adonai et mizbach hazav ve'et hashulchan asher alav lechem hapanim zahav. If I wanted to investigate and see a parallel chapter, I would open up Divrei Yamim, the book of Chronicles, okay? And I would see there that the number 10 shulchanot are listed in Divrei Yamim. And for whatever reason here, Yirmiyahu just wrote that the golden table, okay, it was made out of wood, coated with gold, where the lechem hapanim, the showbread, would be on it, was there. But again, in Divrei Yamim, we see that there are 10 actual tables, okay? 5 to the right side of the Kodesh, 5 to the left side of the Kodesh, and again, some explain that there are 10 tables because the area is 10 times. So there's more kelim, more kedusha. What about the menorot? Pasuk Mem Tet, verse. This too is made out of gold. V'ta menorot chamesh miyamin, v'chamesh mismol lifnei hadvir. Remember, we said the dvir can either be the mechitza that separates between the kodesh and the kodesh HaKodeshim, Furthermore, again, the Mefarshim explain that Shlomo sensed a need to put 10 menorot, 10 candelabras here in the Kodesh, because the volume, the area of the Beit HaMikdash was at least 10 times of the Mishkan. And some say it's 10 plus 1. 10 built by Shlomo, and the actual menorah preserved, that was built by Moshe Rabbeinu, meaning under Moshe Rabbeinu's leadership. Bitzalel was the person that built it. How many years are we talking back? 400 and about 80 years. That's right. So it's about 480 years, 479 years. Okay, that's quite a candelabra. It's kept. So we have 10 shulchanot, according to Divrei Yamim. 10 menorot. All of them, of course, are inside the Kodesh before the Dvir. And these menorot are made out of what? Zahav Sagur. What is the term Zahav Sagur? The best type of gold. Okay? There's a term that was used those days, Zahav Sagur, that it was very fine. Vaperach v'hanerot, meaning the flower decorations on the menorah. V'hanerot, ner is a kli. On top of the candelabra, we have a kli called a ner. Inside the ner, we can pour oil, put a wick inside, and then at night, the Kohen would light the menorah. So we have the ner, nerot, made out of gold, and we have another kli made out of gold. Those are the Melachim. Okay? I don't know what it's called in English. Prongs? Tongs. Okay, Melachim are tongs, meaning if I wanted to adjust the wick, I wanted to clean out things, so we'd use Melachim. They too are made out of Zahav. Furthermore, Pasuk Nun, Vasipod v'mizamrot. Okay, it's not clear to us exactly what are the sipim. Some say that it's a large kli, that whatever said parts of a sacrifice would have to be brought up to the altar, and we put inside these sipot. And the mizamrot are the scissors that you're asking about. That maybe, well, the scissors, yeah. Mizamrot, golden scissors that are used to adjust the ptilot. Remember, but Rashi says no, that they're types of instruments, musical instruments. They too would be made out of gold. Hakapot v'machtot zav sagur. Kapot, kaf. I would put the incense, the powder of the ketoret. Where do we see the word kaf in the Torah? A spoon. When we talk about the 12 respective princes of Israel, each day they brought, for the inauguration of the Mishkan, they brought gifts and presents. And there it would state, quote, Kaf achat, asara zav milea ketoret. So too here, this kaf would be used out of gold for putting the incense in. And the machtot, some of you know, we have a rake to rake the ashes on the altar. If we need more room to better burn the ketoret and so on and so forth. The ending of the pasuk, pasuk 50, Vapotot lidaltot abayit apnimi, lekodesh hakodeshim, lidalte abayit laichal zahav. The potot are supposedly, according to the Dat Mikra, little types of cups that we would put for whatever doors we have in the Beit HaMikdash. We would put the hinges inside the cups there. And I think the hinge would open up into this golden cup on the doors. That's what the Rambam explains. These two are made out of zav. Fantastic, fabulous. The Tanakh is so lengthy in the description of the kelim of the Beit HaMikdash, both made out of copper, both made out of gold. And now it seems at the end of 7 years, as we opened up in the former chapter, 7 years transpire to construct this structure, this edifice. so precise, so detailed, according to the Torah and prophecy. But the addition here, it's going to be the first Beit HaMikdash. And therefore, perhaps in a dramatic way, the chapter comes to an end in verse 51, which will be the source of our shur tomorrow. Vatishlam kol ha-melacha. All the melacha is complete. Shleimut, completion, perfection. Asher asa ha-melech Shlomo Beit Adonai. For the sake of God, it's the house of Hashem. Vayavei Shlomo et kodshei David aviv, et ha-kesef, et ha-zahav, et ha-kelim, Natan ba'otzarot Beit Hashem. And Otzar is a treasury. And Otzar is a storage room. What is the Tanakh telling us here at the end of the chapter? Kodshei David Aviv.
Wait, I thought he used that gold, the silver.
I didn't say that he didn't use.
So that's the rest of it.
Maybe one meaning is that there's a surplus.
Okay.
And the surplus that his father provided out of silver, out of gold, and kelim, it's now put into storage. Everything is accounted for, and there's a leftover. It's good. Why do we need a storage? We learn later in Sefer Melachim, we have a term called bedek habayit. There is wear and tear. We call in Hebrew blai in the Beit HaMikdash. And there are extra parts that have to replace the worn out parts. Okay, it's by definition. We'll learn later, 10, 15 chapters from now, 20 chapters from now, about the wear and tear. One of the kings urging the Kohen Gadol to take the surplus. So one meaning here is the whatever his father dedicated and it was not used, he put into the Beit HaMikdash. What do we construe from this? That he used a lot of other things that his father provided. Okay? And then we're going to ask ourselves in tomorrow's shiur the following question. Who really built the Beit HaMikdash? Is it Shlomo HaMelech? Or is it David HaMelech? And if so, what is each part? However, Rashi, in his second commentary of this pasuk, he brings a Midrash Agadah, which is contrary to the first meaning. And that is, Shlomo HaMelech did not want to use whatever his father dedicated. Shelo ratzah Shlomo leteit mioto hegdesh lebinyan habayit. He didn't want to use it. He's putting all of what his father gave him into storage, according to this Midrash Agadah. Why? Rashi says out of humility, V'shamati michachmei Yisrael. I asked in France where I'm living, I asked the elders of Israel, I asked the scholars, why not? Shayu omrim, lefi shaya yodea shesofo licharev. He knew that in the end, the Beit HaMikdash will be destroyed. It will last for 410 years, but in the end it's going to be destroyed. Do you know what? He knew in prophecy, perhaps, it's going to be destroyed. Do you know why he doesn't want to use it? Have you heard of BBC? They're not too sensitive to the needs of the Jewish people in the state of Israel. Okay? BBC, 410 years later, puts up a post, and the New York Times buys it, and the Herald Tribune as well, and the Wall Street Journal as well. The Jewish temple, 410 years, is destroyed. Why? Because it was David that stole from the Goyim in the wars that he went to, and he took the gold and silver from them. Aha! Now God is getting back at them in order to avoid that the nations of the world should not badmouth the Jewish people, according to this midrash, King Solomon does not use the silver, the gold that David set aside.
So in other words, for the third midrash, that's where it's going to be.
Ken. Those are two meanings we have to this pasuk. We'll continue with this tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem.
So whatever